Sedano, Gutierrez, Blackstone, Isola, 0 days this panel without being unnecessarily dramatic. Just like the NBA, 0 days without being unnecessarily dramatic. Kyrie Irving's trade request. What it means for the Nets and everybody else. Also, All-Stars, All-Stars, and another bad by the refs. Let's go.
Pause. Let's take that back, Tony, or I don't know what I'll do.
News of the day. Kyrie Irving requesting a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. Everything appeared to be going just fine, right? He's the all-star starter. The team is in the top half of the conference. Durant's timeline coming back from injury is getting closer. But now this. Wants a trade by next Thursday's 3 p.m. deadline. George Sedano around the horn to you. Where did this come from? Do you believe the Nets will honor Kyrie's trade request? And then why don't you take it for a spin? What are some possible destinations?
Okay, Tony, let's start with where did this come from? Remember, just recently there was a report that Kyrie Irving wanted an extension of 4 years and north of $200 million. I think it's fairly safe to say the Nets probably balked at that situation, hence why we're here today talking about Kyrie Irving asking for a trade request on February 9th or before the February 9th trade deadline. Now, I do think, though, Kyrie has not done himself, or at least the organization, any favors in regards to leverage now in this situation, because if I'm a team looking to trade for Kyrie, and there will be some, I would presume, they're not going to give them anything of real value. Now, I do think that the prime target is fairly obvious here, that it's LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers, although I do think even the Lakers would have some hesitations about that extension. If you trade for him, are you going to have to immediately give him an extension, or will he potentially shut down if he doesn't get said extension? So there is a risk involved with whoever decides to trade for him. But the Lakers have those two picks. We've talked about it nauseum. Obviously, they got the Russell Westbrook contract that they can make work. There's been talk about this trade going back to the offseason. Now, I don't think the Lakers are alone, Tony. While I think they're the clear favorite, I think the Clippers could be involved because Ty Lue coached him. And I know people will say, Ty Lue and him didn't get along at the end. But Ty's going to want the best talent possible. Right. I would also include quickly the Heat and the Mavs as teams who will always be willing to look.
All right, so now that we've got Lakers, Clippers, Heat, and Mavs, I don't know who on the Clippers roster the Nets would want. Remember, the Nets, again, top half of the conference. Everything was going fine. Let's bring Israel Gutierrez here on Kyrie Irving's trade request.
Well, the timing of it is, I think, is brilliant on Kyrie's part, because the whole conversation is never, hey, can Kyrie still play basketball? It's, hey, can he, sort of settle in? Will he not create any waves? And will he just focus on basketball? And it's almost like Kyrie sort of ran out of time here and believing in his ability to do that for the rest of this season and just said, hey, trade me now. Because the move for Kyrie is just, hey, prove that you can be a stable person again. Prove that you can play throughout the season, play into the playoffs, carry your team, maybe to a conference finals, maybe to the NBA finals. And then there's no doubt in your mind or in people's minds, hey, we can sign this guy to a 3 or 4 year extension. Right now, there's still people wondering, will he be that stable person when we bring him to my franchise? Can I trust him for 3 or 4 years? And the timing of it, I think, is perfect because you've got a very short period of time for people to convince themselves out of it. Like Steve Ballmer can definitely convince himself, I can handle Kyrie. Let's make that trade. Or a handful of other teams. So rather than have an entire summer of time, just these few days to just intense thinking about maybe I'm going to.
All right, and you highlighted the Clippers there with Ballmer, but since you know the Miami Heat better than anyone, do you see that as a possible destination, Israel?
I don't know if it's the right fit in terms of personalities. Miami's very sort of secure in sort of who they are as a franchise and who they want to bring in. And I don't know if Mickey Arison wants to bring in Kyrie Irving, in all honesty. So if they do, then I do think it's a good landing spot for him. I think they've had some issues with Kyle Lowry. He hasn't really lived up to the trade when they acquired him. And so, yeah, that piece would absolutely put them probably at the top of the Eastern Conference.
Robinson, maybe, okay. Kevin Blackstone.
Robinson,
and a draft pick, probably.
I'll bring you in here.
Well, I mean, Kyrie Irving, what a teammate. Wow. Wins a championship with LeBron in Cleveland, doesn't want to stay there. Gets to Boston, they're putting together a team up there, decides that's not a good fit. He's there in the Nets. He's getting the ball right now in KD's absence, averaging 33 points a game, doing whatever he wants, willing that team to victories, and all of a sudden, that's not good enough. This is the same thing he did in the offseason, by the way. Remember when KD was asking for a trade?
His trade, yes, we remember that, too.
Exactly. So then he wanted out. If I'm the Nets, I do not budge. I do not pick up my phone. He is going to play for this team and through the end. Are we concerned about him being in the last year of his contract? No, not really, because as a free agent, we can pay him the most money. And as everyone else pointed out, when you look at other teams who would want to acquire Kyrie, everyone had some concerns about whether he would fit with this team, whether he would fit with that team. That carries with him everywhere he goes.
Now, Frank Isola. I've been holding on Isola to the end here because we have, and I say this to you, Frank, because I know what you're talking about, a white snake situation. Here we go down our road. The only road we've ever known. Go ahead, Frank Isola.
It's amazing. The Nets lead the league in superstar trade requests. First Kevin Durant, now Kyrie Irving. Think about how things change quick in the NBA. 3 months ago when Kyrie tweeted out that movie and that had the anti-Semitic content in it, you're wondering, he got suspended 5 games and then it turned out to be 8. And you're thinking, does Kyrie Irving have a future in the league? Well, clearly he thinks so. He's demanding a trade today. But everyone is right. If you're the Brooklyn Nets here, unless you get a deal that blows you away, the best chance to win a championship this year is getting Kevin Durant back healthy, Ben Simmons healthy, and Kyrie Irving playing the way that he's been playing. Because remember, Kyrie Irving's best year with the Brooklyn Nets has been the last 6 weeks. Why? Because he's playing for a contract. He's playing for his future. You want to give him more than a 1-year contract? I get it. If I'm his agent and I see what some of these other guys get, I want 4 years. If I'm a team, I'm giving him 1. That's all I'm giving him.
I'm back in.
Tony, before we jumped on the air, I made a number of calls, and I talked to a couple of NBA players who are in this building today here in LA. They all yelled at me, the Lakers need to do this deal.
Of course they did.
If you're LeBron James, because the clock is ticking, because of all the stuff he's talked about during the season openly about wanting help, this is the team that is going to be under the microscope in regards to
Kyrie Irving saying those wonderful things about LeBron. We did it on this show just a few days ago. We know, but I mean, it takes 2 to trade. These draft picks the Lakers have are not exactly the great. I mean, so that's out there, and then Russell Westbrook back with Durant. Man, this league. Bravo, NBA. We move on. All stars. Let's go. Here are the rosters, and you know how it works. If you want to put someone in you think is deserving, you got to take somebody out. Frank, I know you've never complained about the NBA before, but humor us. Try something new. Who was snubbed from this year's team, Frank?
I think De'Aaron Fox certainly was, and Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards of Minnesota. You know, politicians will get up there and they'll say a vote for me is a vote for prosperity. It's almost as if the Western Conference coaches got up there and said a vote for Paul George is a vote for load management. How are you voting a guy that has missed 17 games? I get it. The fans sometimes do crazy things. The media, we don't know what we're doing. The coaches, I thought you guys don't like when players do this. So you have Jaren Jackson who's missed 17 games. Same thing with Paul George. Both terrific players. Anthony Edwards and De'Aaron Fox deserve to be on that team.
Kevin Blackstone.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think that if you are missing that many games, I think that's disqualifying for the All-Star game. However, it is not us who's making that decision. It's the players and the fans. And for whatever reasons, they are continuing to vote in guys who are playing like, a third of the first half of the season, which just doesn't make sense. Anthony Edwards, 20 was the average, like 24, 6 and 4, something like that. He has carried that team. He could use some help around him. He's got them in the playoffs. I don't think he's missed a game, maybe one. That's the kind of reward that I think should go out to a player.
Anthony Edwards on, and who are you throwing off there? Is it Jaren Jackson Jr.?
No, I wouldn't. Zion. I mean, Zion.
He's a starter, but I hear what you're saying.
He's missed 19, 20 games. I don't get it.
Israel Gutierrez.
I'm in agreement with KB and Frank so far. I will add James Harden as a major snub in this one, and I would put him in ahead of Tyrese Halliburton, frankly, because you're talking about a 7 games played difference, right, where Harden has played less games, but better record, better team record, more scores, more points rather, more assists, and it just feels like it's sort of an anti-Harden and a pro-Tyrese, young guy sentiment there. And I'll also say that I think Drew Holiday probably shouldn't have gotten in, and if you want to throw somebody else in there, I would put Jalen Brunson in there because a lot of people are basically interchanging Jalen Brunson for Julius Randle. One of them could have gotten in versus the other, but I think he could have gotten in for DeMar DeRozan, who, again, 10th, 11th place team. Somebody's got to score for them. He's sort of a coach's darling, but is this really an all-star year for DeMar DeRozan? The numbers say so, but a lot of people are scoring a lot this season.
Okay, and I will deduct here. Tyrese Halliburton does lead the league in assists, so Harden doesn't have Halliburton in assists, Israel. Sedano back in.
No, he does.
Tony, isn't this game for the fans? It's not for the scribes and the media, right? This is about what the fans want to see. And yes, I understand that maybe some of you guys on here want to have a games limit, but there's no such rule that says there needs to be a set amount of games to play in this particular game or to be chosen in this particular game. So I'm going to take out Lauri Markkanen and I'm going to put in Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis, prior to his injury, was playing at an MVP level. You can, all you want, Frank, but the reality is this. You're the guy that wants to see a bunch of dudes that the fans don't want to see, okay? The fans clearly wanted to see Anthony Davis, and this game is still about the fans last time I checked.
Anthony Davis, the snub for you, okay? And who are you throwing off there, George?
I threw off Lauri Markkanen because, to Israel's point, somebody's got to score on a bad team.
Israel, I'll go back to you here.
No, look, I mean, to me, Anthony Davis, you got to play. And the one thing you got to do in this league is to play games. And I think I'm all about, changing a rule that maybe you should have to play like 75% of your games to make the All-Star game. So while he did play, had a good stretch, it's not an All-Star season for him.
And that's why James Harden is not leading the league.
Utah has a better record. Utah has a better record than the Lakers.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Utah's got more wins this season.
And the game's in
playoff
Utah
right now than the Lakers.
Who would you rather have on your team, Anthony Davis or Lauri Markkanen, right now?
For the All-Star game, Lauri Markkanen, because I know he'll play.
No, right now on your team. Forget about the All-Star game. Your team right now, because the fans want.
Guys, the horn was like 3 minutes ago. What are you doing? Let's go to break. By yourself. Next, let's go with the countdown. 0 days since anything unnecessarily dramatic in the NBA. That was because yesterday was reset to 0. When we had this, stop me when this sounds familiar. Dylan Brooks, angsty and flailing and scuffling. Yep. Last night, the wind-up and whack to Donovan Mitchell's lower abdominal region. We launched the basketball, and then the shoving, and then both were ejected. Mitchell was hot after the game. Take a listen.
That's just who he is. We've seen it a bunch in this league with him. Quite frankly, I've been busting the for years. Playoffs, regular season. In the one game he does a high job on me today. He decides to do something like that. And this isn't just a Donovan thing. This has happened to other players throughout this league. And it's if we're being honest with you.
Dylan Brooks, Donovan Mitchell, someone else, George. Who was in the wrong, and does the league need to discipline more?
Tony, far be it from me to say that I don't like a player who's got a little nasty to him on my team, and I like Dylan Brooks as a player, but this was egregious. I mean, it was clearly, there was clear intent there. You could see it just by watching the video. Anyone who was watching that can see that. And look, Draymond Green got a one-game suspension in the NBA Finals, okay, for doing something similar with his foot to LeBron James. I would say in the regular season, that deserves a longer suspension, in my opinion. And, if you want to find Donovan Mitchell for throwing the ball, so be it. But Dylan Brooks needs to be suspended.
Israel Gutierrez?
Well, Dylan represents the best and the worst of the Grizzlies. He's that fiery competitor. He's always defending hard. But the worst part about it is he can go over the top a little bit sometimes, and this is one of those examples. Now, does he need to be suspended longer than somebody else who's only been caught doing it one time, unless there's some sort of history there that we don't know about? No. He should just get whatever it is, a one-game suspension or whatever the standard suspension is. But the Grizzlies overall need to worry. I know they think the league doesn't like them, which is not true because Jaren Jackson Jr. made the All-Star game, but they need to worry about their competition not liking them and them sort of going over the edge of being that team that just you don't like. And whether it be a Detroit bad boy situation or something like that, they could gain that reputation pretty quick.
Kevin Blackstone.
One game suspension, that's fine, but let's not make this like an NBA problem of discipline in the league. That's not at all the case. And I know Dylan Brooks got into it with Shannon Sharp the other week, but that was Shannon Sharp's problem. And the gendarmes in L.A. should have dealt with Shannon Sharp and not have to worry about Dylan Brooks. So let's just play on through this. Two guys with beef, that's good for the league.
But that was intentional in your mind with Brooks first, the crotch
Oh,
shot.
yeah, it was.
Reggie Miller on the broadcast, I think, said he didn't think it was intentional, which shocked me.
No, we know what happened.
And Frank Isola on Brooks, and then on the way, Donovan Mitchell came back at him.
Yeah. Well, Dylan Brooks learned a valuable lesson. Do not mess with anybody from Greenwich, Connecticut Country Day School, tuition about $51,000.
Oh, that is a low blow.
I think they serve gelato in the school cafeteria. Dylan Brooks has a history here. And the commissioner of the league should be on the phone with him, and then he should say, put John Moran on the phone as well, because John Moran had a quote after the game. The league hates us. Excuse me? You guys are getting a reputation, and it's not a good one. Dylan Brooks needs to be reined back in, 1-game suspension.
Never change, Frank Isola. See, that is reporting right there. And knowing the cafeteria menu.
$51,000 a year.
Okay, that's still, once again, a low blow. We'll move on. Buy or sell to college. Kara Lawson claiming the Duke women's team played with a men's ball in the first half of their loss Sunday at Florida State. Says in the first half her players complained. Halftime, assistant coach Winston Gandy went to the scores table to inspect the ball, where he realized the ball was in fact a men's ball. And then the ball was changed out in the second half. This morning, ACC Deputy Commissioner Amy Acola said the league investigated, could not determine if the wrong ball was used. Following a thorough objective review process, they said there was no evidence found to support the claim. Here is a split screen of the balls in each half, as per the game broadcast, for what it's worth. It's almost impossible, but I think we should just show you that in general. The difference is 1 centimeter in circumference in the women's ball and the men's ball. Israel, what are you buying? What are you selling from this?
Well, having played with both the men's basketball and the women's basketball, you can tell the difference right away. I'm selling the idea that nobody in that first half, the players, meaning didn't just stop the game and just say something. I'm also just selling the idea if there isn't some sort of process for picking out the game ball and the backup game ball in women's college basketball, there absolutely should be. I know there definitely is one in the NBA. I'm not sure about men's college basketball, but that should be a simple process. You have dozens of women's college basketballs being there for warm-ups. How does one men's ball sort of sneak in there and become the game ball? No, they should protect the game ball before the games and have it chosen by the players on both sides.
Well, actually, they do that, Izzy, and I don't know how, this process fell apart this time, but at the end of the day, the refs are the ones who touch the ball, make sure it's bouncing right. They should be able to determine which is a man's ball and which is the women's ball. And in this case, that didn't happen, but I'm concerned about something here. I'm concerned that this kind of stuff only happens in the women's game. Only in the women's game do you have to play on a ballroom floor. Only in the women's game do you show up and go to the exercise room and find out they've got a couple of dumbbells down there to keep you in shape. They need to fix this problem so that it never, ever happens again, because it's a really, really bad look.
Isola.
Kara Lawson spent 1 year on the Celtics bench, and everyone there said she has the chops to be an NBA head coach. In this case, though, it's sour grapes. Over the course of 2 minutes of a game, everyone's touching the ball. Maybe unless you're James Harden or Luka Doncic's teammate, you're going to touch the ball. You have to know. Everyone that's played soccer or basketball knows there's a difference in the size of the ball. None of the players knew it. The referee.
Wait, no. Lawson is saying the players did complain to her in the first half, and that's why they went ahead and checked it at halftime. That's what the players didn't know.
Well, I'm saying the first minute of the game, players, you can play basketball twice and you can tell the difference.
George Sedano.
That's what I find hard to believe.
Tony, look, I agree with everyone here in that should have been stopped sooner. I do think that we can all agree there. But I'm curious to know what the investigation the ACC did. What kind of transparency do we have in regards to that? Because them just saying they didn't find any evidence, well, can you tell us what that included? Like what you did to try to figure that out?
Maybe real quick.
Well, look, the one bothersome note about this, women did complain in the first half, and apparently they really were not taken seriously. And that's the problem with women in sports, not taken seriously when they need to be.
Just stop the game. Throw the ball out.
Exactly.
Say this is the wrong ball.
I think the players always know, though, right? From the second you touch the ball, they know it immediately. So if they were saying it, they know. Showdown next. Stone. Pelicans Mavericks last night. Brandon Ingram guarding the inbounds pass, called for out of bounds on the deflection, and the clock kept running. Pelicans had no challenge left, couldn't do anything about it after the game. The refs admitted they were wrong. They did it before the 2-minute report. So how should the Pels feel about that, Frank?
They should feel awful. They obviously got job, but guess what? It happens in the NBA. Think about the Lakers, and I'm not talking about what happened on Saturday against Boston. Last night, they went to the free throw line 16 times in the fourth, 0 for Indiana. Yet the Lakers aren't.
It's not about the Lakers, please. Would you stop? Kevin Black is
That's true. Here's the problem, Frank. They didn't have any challenges left, but you remember, just a couple seasons ago, this could have come down to the referees making that call in the final 2 minutes. You can't do that anymore
right.
now. So
and why do they not have a challenge left? Because they used one earlier successfully. I mean,
there you go. Just
hosed. We'll move on. NFL skills last night. We had a Craig Hodges situation. And the old people might know what I'm talking about here. But Derek Carr, we know the Raiders want nothing to do with him. So he's Sans team furious. 31-point precision passing display to win the AFC's contest here. Here he was with Ryan Clark after.
You've thrown touchdown passes in Vegas before. You've been on fire. Have you ever been that hot in Las Vegas?
Not that hot. It's probably why I'm going somewhere else.
KB?
on personality alone, I'm going to give Derek Carr a contract in the NFL. What a fantastic answer.
He's a very likable guy. He's a decent quarterback. You know what? The New York Jets, I'll take him as my starting quarterback. He's good.
Kevin Black has stolen 30 seconds of FaceTime.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you for showing that fit with Derek Carr. You know what that reminds me of? Since we have all these skills competitions going on now at the All-Star break, let's bring back the show from the 70s, Superstars. You remember that? That was great when you bring the best athletes from every sport and have them do stuff like ride a bike, swim and do a 100-meter dash, swim race, everything. You remember when Joe Frazier almost drowned in his swim? Oh, man,
that's not great.
I want to see that again. Let's see these people come
Bring it back.
A little bicycle race.
You're right.
See you Monday.